Our next segment is in collaboration with one of Temecula Valley history's stakeholders, the Roripaugh Family Foundation. Their goal is to preserve the cultural, historical, and ecological heritage of the Temecula Valley, and their grants given to local nonprofits do just that. JDS Creative Academy, the nonprofit that brings you Spectrum of Innovation, is the recipient of one of these grants. And with this funding, we bring you this look at the city of Temecula's rich history. We invited the female members of the SOI team to come along with us on this journey to explore where we've been, where we're going, and to meet some of Temecula's notable women along the way.
I'm here to take you back in time when the hillsides were the home of the Luiseño Indians, the valley's first residents. Their ancestors were in this area as early as 900 AD. Let's jump ahead a millennium. The first Spanish missionaries came to the valley's Indian village in 1797, and by the 1820s, the missionaries had settled in farming and raising cattle. Governor of California grants 2,000 acres to missionary convert Pablo Apis, which becomes Little Temecula Rancho, the heart of Old Temecula. Mexico cedes to California. Days later, gold is discovered at Sutter Mill.
Thousands of gold prospectors with dreams of striking it rich traveled to California over what became known as the Southern Emigrant Trail. In 1867,
Louis Wolfe
and Ramona Wolfe moved to the Temecula Valley and ended up buying a store right by the trail, providing a much-needed resting place.
Louis Wolfe
became the most well-known pioneer of his time, and his wife Ramona also made her mark in history.
Louis Wolfe and I met when I was 16 years old, and we married shortly afterwards. The Wolfe store was the central gathering place for more than just the stagecoach mail. It was an outpost, and it was the center of civilization at the time for where we lived. People would leave messages for their friends at our store. It was the main social hub for everything. Louis was the justice of the peace, so he would preside over disagreements and performed weddings right there in our store. Well, I think I was influential in being the first lady in the village of Temecula. It was helpful to my husband because I could speak 2 languages. So he was able to communicate with our customers, and I was approachable by the Temecula Indians as well. I think the fact that Louis was married to a Native American made it easier for people to accept this businessman, Louis Wolfe, from Europe. Helen Hunt Jackson stayed with us one night while she was visiting in Temecula. She became a famous author. Mrs. Jackson later fictionalized observations by writing the novel Ramona, which appealed to the reader's sense of justice. In her book, Ramona, Mrs. Jackson interwove facts about Louis and me and the Wolfe store and Temecula, including the name Ramona, which was a composite of 3 women named Ramona and their life stories.
The Ramona novel's portrayal of Mexican colonial life gave the region a unique identity, and many tourists rode the new trains to see the locations mentioned in the book. The railroad came to Temecula in 1882 and built a depot near where Diaz and Winchester are located today. The train brought commerce and travelers to the new town center, what is now known as Old Town Temecula.
Here we are in Old Town, where there are many well-preserved and repurposed old buildings. The 1890 Mercantile Building serves as an art gallery, small theater space, and entryway to the Temecula Community Theater. The First National Bank, built in 1914, is now a Mexican restaurant. Temecula's first church, St. Catharines, was built in 1917 and is now displayed at Sam Hicks Monument Park. RJ and Mary Jane Welty opened a hotel right here the same year that the railroad first arrived. Unfortunately, it burned down in 1891, but it was quickly rebuilt that same year. These days, it's called the Hotel Temecula, and it looks pretty much the same as it did back then. Mary Jane Welty herself might still recognize it.
At 18, one of the Welty boys, Richard Johnson Welty, and I were married. So by the time we moved to Temecula in the 1880s, we had 11 daughters. Before we got there was one other hotel, and then we built a second hotel. At first, we called it the Depot Hotel. In the hotel, over the years, we had a store. We also had the post office for quite a long time, as one of our daughters was the postmistress in Temecula. and we also had a school there. I think people saw me as a symbol of the kind of pioneer woman who helped bring America west.
One of the students who attended school at the Welty Hotel was Isabel Gonzalez, who later became Isabel Barnett. In 1879, she was the first Caucasian child to be born in the Temecula Valley.
I was born April 25th, 1879. My father was in the process of building his own adobe home and finally moved in when I was just 4 months old. I lived there until I got married. Now, this adobe is still standing and is the center of the Adobe Plaza Shopping Center on Jefferson, just south of Overland. Many of the old family photos show me riding a bicycle, having picnics on the Santa Rosa Plateau, climbing on huge boulders with family and friends. With no formal building for a school here in Temecula, I started my grammar school education in the Welty Hotel, which is now known as the Temecula Hotel. I taught piano until I married a neighbor to Ben Barnett. But we built our home on 200 acres just north of my father's adobe. This is the home I would live in my entire life and where I would raise my 3 boys. And of course, a school is named in my honor, Isabel Barnett Elementary. The school mascot are the Pioneers, which to me is perfect, and I was the true pioneer of Temecula Valley.
Many other women, some famous and others not so well known, shaped what Temecula is today. Frida Knott was a school board trustee and librarian.
Agnus Freeman was Temecula's only telephone operator from 1918 to 1961. She handled all the phone calls from a switchboard where she plugged lines together with cables. She actually had a cot next to the switchboard so that she could handle all the calls 24 hours a day.
Agnus Freeman was working as a teller at the Temecula First National Bank when the first bank robbery in the history of Riverside County occurred there on August 14, 1930. The insurance company rewarded Miss Freeman with a diamond brooch for her bravery.
Nita Ashman Thompson was the daughter of a well-known Pechanga tribal leader, Tony Ashman. She worked as a teacher, a school principal, and then after retiring, became a painter and enjoyed depicting Temecula's early days. She was invaluable in her assistance to local historians with her keen memory of the past.
Peg Moore was elected to Temecula's first city council in 1989 and worked alongside another noteworthy woman, Patricia Birdsall. Peg continued to serve Temecula in various capacities for 30 years.
Joan Sparkman has an education center and 3 streets named after her. One of her many accomplishments was to be one of the first women to serve on the Temecula School Board in the 1970s.
I got involved on the school board primarily because I had 2 children in school. We moved here in 1969 and there was one school here, Temecula Valley Elementary School, which was a K-8 school. I knew that as the community grew, we'd need additional schools, so I got very involved. My greatest accomplishment, in my opinion, was that as we were growing, I worked with the development community in setting aside sites for schools. We ended up with 25 additional sites for schools. There was a great movement. In fact, Peg Moore's husband was very involved in that, Jimmy, in establishing a name for the community, and the toss-up was Rancho California, California, or Temecula, California. So I got on that committee and we fought very hard and did a lot of PR work, and fortunately, with the help of many, many others, we managed to name the city Temecula.
We're here with Temecula Councilwoman Marianne Edwards. She has served on the steering committees for various city projects, as well as on a dozen of nonprofit boards, the Temecula Valley School Board, and 3 times as Temecula's mayor.
What are some of your proudest accomplishments?
Well, I guess we'd have to say just living here for 30 years and seeing what Temecula was before and what Temecula has grown into is probably the thing I'm most proud of. I'm just proud to have had a small part in that.
Temecula has come a long way, so how do you envision the future?
And our residents have said resoundingly that they want Temecula to remain as it is, safe, beautiful, a great place to raise a family and to own a business and to work, and now a great place to vacation and to, provide recreation for visitors. So that's the way we have planned the next 30 years, is to maintain as well as we can and to make sure that everything is done the best way the first time.
Wow, something to be proud of. And the city really does grow with its community. So we want to know, what opportunities do you see for women to get involved with all this growth?
Well, I think if you just look at the women that are currently serving and have served in the past, right now we have a female police chief, a female fire chief, a female CHP commander. If you look around the community, we have a female city clerk. Finance director is a female. So we can do anything we want. When I talk to girls and young women, if somebody offers you an opportunity to do something, even if it's outside your comfort zone, say yes.
We hope this segment shows where we've been and help paves the way to the future. Thank you to the Roripaugh Foundation for making this segment possible. We'd also like to thank historian Rebecca Farnbach and the notable women of the Temecula Valley Historical Society.
We also want to acknowledge the spectrum of innovation team members who worked on this segment, and all the women who work at JDS Creative Academy, which includes you and me.
A special introduction to the creators of this segment, Spectrum of Innovation's head writer Johanna Lack and JDS Creative Academy's founder and SOI executive producer Diane Strand.
It's been an honor to take a look back at Temecula's past, which allows us to see opportunities of the future and how we as women and all of us at JDS Creative Academy can shape Temecula's future, creating history.